Hello there, friends. Today, we are going on an exciting journey together. This story will take us deep into a world of surprises, bravery, and unexpected twists. It's about a woman who looks ordinary at first glance but has hidden powers that no one sees coming. By the end of this tale, you'll feel amazed, inspired, and maybe even a little bit smarter. So buckle up, grab your favorite snack, and let's get started. Let me introduce you to our main character, Clara. She lives in a small town surrounded by trees, parks, and friendly faces. On the outside, she seems like any other person living her life quietly. But don't be fooled. There's so much more to Clara than meets the eye. Clara is blind. That means she cannot see things the way most people do. Instead of using her eyes, she relies on her ears, hands, and heart to understand the world around her. Some people think being blind makes someone weak or helpless. Those people couldn't be more wrong. Every day, Clara walks through her neighborhood with confidence. She carries a long white cane to help her find her way. Her steps are steady, and her head is held high. Even though she can't see, she knows every crack in the sidewalk, every tree along the street, and every sound made by birds, cars, and people passing by. But here's the secret: Clara isn't just surviving, she's thriving. Over the years, she has learned skills that make her stronger than many sighted people. She knows how to protect herself if danger comes knocking. She also knows how to stay calm under pressure and solve problems quickly. These skills didn't come easily, they took hard work, patience, and courage. Clara wasn't always blind. When she was younger, she could see perfectly fine. She loved playing outside, reading books, and drawing pictures. Life was simple and happy. Then, when she was 13 years old, something terrible happened. A car accident changed everything. The doctors did their best to save her sight, but they couldn't fix the damage. At first, Clara felt lost and scared. How would she live without seeing? Would she still be able to go to school, make friends, or chase her dreams? For a while, she stayed inside her house, feeling sorry for herself. But then, something amazing happened. Clara realized she had two choices. She could sit around and feel sad about what she had lost, or she could fight back and learn new ways to live her life. Guess which choice she made? That's right, she chose to fight. With the support of her family and teachers, Clara began learning how to adapt to her new reality. She practiced walking with a cane until she could move smoothly through crowded streets. She learned Braille, a special writing system for blind people, so she could read again. And she discovered tools like talking watches and screen readers to help her stay independent. It wasn't easy, but Clara never gave up. Slowly but surely, she built a new life for herself. She became stronger, braver, and smarter than ever before. Now, let's talk about the town where Clara lives. It's a cozy place filled with kind-hearted people, busy shops, and beautiful parks. Most days, the streets buzz with activity as kids play, dogs bark, and neighbors chat over fences. But not everyone in town is nice. Some people judge others too quickly based on how they look or act. They assume that because Clara is blind, she must be weak or unable to take care of herself. These people whisper behind her back, calling her names like poor thing or helpless. They don't realize how wrong they are. One group of people in particular stands out: the bikers. You've probably seen them before. They ride loud motorcycles, wear leather jackets, and sometimes cause trouble wherever they go. In Clara's town, these bikers are known for being rude and disrespectful. They speed down narrow streets, honk their horns at pedestrians, and laugh loudly whenever they feel like it. Most people avoid the bikers and try not to draw attention to themselves. But Clara isn't afraid of anyone, not even the toughest-looking biker. She knows that true strength comes from within, not from big muscles or loud engines. Have you ever heard the saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover"? It means you shouldn't decide what someone is like just by looking at them. Unfortunately, many people forget this important lesson. In Clara's case, people often underestimate her because of her blindness. They see her walking slowly with a cane and assume she needs help with everything. If she drops something, they rush to pick it up for her. If she hesitates at a crosswalk, they offer to guide her across the street. While these actions might seem kind, they actually bother Clara. She doesn't want pity or special treatment. She wants to be treated like anyone else with respect and fairness. More importantly, she wants people to recognize her abilities instead of focusing on her disability. What people don't know is that Clara has spent years preparing for moments when she might need to defend herself. She joined a survivalist group that taught her how to handle difficult situations. She practiced martial arts designed for people with disabilities. She learned how to use everyday objects like keys, belts, or even her cane as weapons if necessary. All of these skills have made Clara incredibly capable. Yet, no one suspects a thing. To the outside world, she's still just a quiet, unassuming woman who happens to be blind. Now that you know a little about Clara, let's set the stage for the rest of our story. One sunny afternoon, Clara decides to visit the grocery store. She fills her reusable bags with fresh fruits, vegetables, bread, and milk. As she leaves the store, she feels good about her shopping trip. Little does she know, trouble is waiting just around the corner. As Clara walks home, she hears the rumble of motorcycle engines approaching. At first, she thinks nothing of it. Bikers pass through town all the time. But this time is different. The bikes slow down as they near Clara, circling her like predators stalking their prey. One of the bikers calls out, "Hey, lady. Need a hand?" His voice drips with sarcasm, and his friends laugh loudly. Clara stops walking and grips her cane tightly. She senses danger in the air. These men aren't offering help, they're looking for fun at her expense. And Clara isn't about to let them win. So, why should you keep reading this story? Because it's not just about Clara, it's about standing up for yourself, proving doubters wrong, and finding strength in unexpected places. It's about showing kindness to others while refusing to tolerate disrespect. By the end of this tale, you'll cheer for Clara as she turns the tables on those who underestimated her. You'll feel proud of her courage and inspired by her resilience. Best of all, you'll walk away with a powerful reminder: never judge someone based on appearances. True strength lies beneath the surface, waiting to shine. Are you ready to dive deeper into Clara's world? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll share the next part of the story soon. Let's dive back into Clara's story. Remember how she was walking home from the grocery store? She had her bags full of food, her cane in hand, and a calm smile on her face. Everything seemed normal until the bikers showed up. At first, all Clara heard was the loud rumble of motorcycle engines. The sound grew louder and louder, like thunder rolling closer. Then, suddenly, 3 motorcycles zoomed past her, circling around like vultures. They slowed down and stopped right in front of her path. One of the bikers leaned forward on his bike, smirking. Well, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What do we have here? A lost little lamb?" Clara froze for a moment. She could feel their energy, angry, mocking, and dangerous. These men weren't there to help her cross the street. No, they wanted something else. They wanted to mess with her. And Clara knew it. Before we go any further, let's talk about these bikers. Who are they? Why are they acting so mean? In Clara's town, the bikers are known for causing trouble. They ride their motorcycles too fast, honk their horns at people, and sometimes even break rules just for fun. Most people avoid them because they're loud, rude, and intimidating. The leader of this group is a man named Jake. He's tall, muscular, and always wears a leather jacket covered in patches. His friends call him Big Jake because he likes to act tough and bossy. Jake thinks he's the king of the road, and he expects everyone to bow down to him. Jake's two friends are just as bad. One is named Rick, a skinny guy with messy hair who loves cracking jokes at other people's expense. The other is Tony, a quiet but strong-looking man who follows Jake's orders without question. Together, these three bikers form a team that nobody wants to cross. They believe they can do whatever they want because no one stands up to them. But today, they're about to meet someone very different, someone who won't back down. When Jake spoke, Clara didn't answer right away. She stood still, holding her cane tightly. Her heart was beating faster than usual, but not because she was scared. No, Clara felt something else, a mix of anger and focus. She knew exactly what these men were doing. They thought she was weak because she couldn't see. They thought they could push her around and laugh at her. But Clara wasn't going to let that happen. "Move aside," Clara said calmly, though her voice carried an edge. "I don't have time for games." Her words surprised the bikers. They weren't used to hearing such confidence from someone like her. For a second, they hesitated. But then Jake laughed, shaking his head. "Oh, this is gonna be fun," he said, motioning to his friends. "Let's see how far she gets without her precious stick." Have you ever wondered why some people treat others unfairly? Why do they pick on those who seem weaker or different? In this case, the bikers chose to bother Clara because she was blind. They assumed she wouldn't fight back. But why does this happen? Sometimes, people act mean because they're insecure. Deep down, they might feel small or powerless, so they try to make themselves look bigger by putting others down. Other times, they simply lack empathy. They don't stop to think about how their actions affect others. In Jake's case, he probably picked on Clara because it made him feel strong. He liked seeing fear in people's eyes when he intimidated them. It gave him a sense of control. What he didn't realize was that Clara wasn't afraid of him or anyone else. As Jake and his friends surrounded Clara, they started whispering to each other. "Watch this," Jake said, grinning. "We'll teach her a lesson she won't forget." Their plan was simple: they wanted to scare Clara. Maybe they'd knock her cane out of her hands or spill her groceries on the ground. They thought it would be funny to watch her struggle. After all, she was blind. How much harm could she really do? Rick stepped forward first. He grabbed one of Clara's grocery bags and yanked it out of her hand. Apples, oranges, and bread tumbled onto the sidewalk. Clara flinched but didn't say anything. She kept her cool, listening carefully to every sound. Tony joined in next. He kicked her cane away, sending it skittering across the pavement. The bikers roared with laughter, thinking they'd won already. But Clara wasn't done yet. Not even close. While the bikers laughed and mocked her, Clara was busy planning her next move. You see, Clara had spent years preparing for moments like this. She wasn't just a regular person, she was a fighter. Years ago, after losing her sight, Clara decided she wouldn't let anyone take advantage of her. She joined a survivalist group where she learned self-defense techniques designed for people with disabilities. She practiced martial arts that relied on hearing, touch, and spatial awareness instead of sight. For example, Clara could tell where someone was standing based on the sound of their voice or footsteps. She could feel vibrations in the air caused by movement. And she knew how to use everyday objects like her cane as weapons if needed. All of these skills made Clara incredibly capable. Yet, the bikers had no idea. To them, she was just a helpless blind woman. And that mistake would cost them dearly. Now, imagine you're watching the scene unfold. You know Clara has hidden powers, but the bikers don't. They keep laughing and teasing her, thinking they're in control. Meanwhile, Clara stays calm, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This is called suspense. It's when you feel excited and nervous at the same time because you don't know what's going to happen next. Will Clara fight back? How will she handle three big, tough bikers? These questions keep you hooked, eager to find out more. Let's pause for a moment and think about how Clara must be feeling. On the outside, she looks calm and collected. But inside, her mind is racing. She's calculating every move, listening to every sound, and planning her strategy. She knows she only has one chance to turn the tables and she's ready. As the minutes passed, the bikers grew more confident. They thought Clara was helpless, so they started getting bolder. Jake leaned off his bike and walked toward her, sneering. "You know," he said, "you should be thanking us. We're giving you a free lesson in survival. Maybe next time, you'll learn to stay out of our way." His words stung, but Clara didn't show it. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, as if considering what he'd said. Then, in a calm voice, she replied, "Thank you for the advice. I'll remember it." Jake frowned. He wasn't used to being talked back to, especially not by someone like Clara. "What did you just say?" he demanded, stepping closer. Clara didn't answer. She was focused on something else, the sound of his boots scraping against the pavement. She could hear his breathing, heavy and uneven. She could feel the tension in the air, thick and electric. Suddenly, Clara realized something important. These bikers were loud. Too loud. Their laughter echoed off nearby buildings, giving away their positions perfectly. Every step they took, every word they spoke, it all helped Clara understand exactly where they were. This realization filled her with confidence. She didn't need to see them to defend herself. All she needed was her ears, her instincts, and her training. The bikers, on the other hand, had no clue what was coming. They thought they were in charge. They thought Clara was weak. And that arrogance would lead to their downfall. By now, you might be wondering why this part of the story is so important. Well, it sets the stage for everything that happens next. It shows how the bikers underestimate Clara, setting themselves up for failure. It highlights Clara's inner strength and determination, making her a hero worth cheering for. More importantly, it teaches us a valuable lesson: never judge someone based on appearances. Just because someone looks different or faces challenges doesn't mean they're weak. True strength comes from within, and it often shows up in the most unexpected ways. So, as we move forward in the story, keep this in mind. Clara isn't just fighting for herself, she's fighting for respect, fairness, and justice. And trust me, she's about to prove that she's stronger than anyone realizes. Are you curious to see how Clara handles the bikers? Do you want to know what happens when she finally fights back? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll share the next part of the story soon. Until then, remember this: sometimes, the quietest person in the room holds the most power. And those who judge by appearances, they're the ones who never see it coming. Now that we've seen how the bikers underestimated Clara, let's dive deeper into what happens next. This is where the story starts to heat up, where small actions lead to big surprises. Clara isn't just standing there letting the bikers push her around anymore. Oh no, she's about to show them exactly who they're messing with. When Jake stepped closer, sneering and mocking her, Clara didn't flinch. She stood tall, gripping her cane tightly. Her mind was sharp, calculating every move. She could hear the bikers' laughter echoing off the buildings, their footsteps crunching on the pavement. Every sound gave her clues about where they were and what they might do next. Clara knew she couldn't fight all three bikers at once, not yet, anyway. So, she decided to play along for a little while longer. She wanted them to feel confident, to think they had the upper hand. That way, when she struck back, it would hit them like a thunderbolt. Rick, the skinny biker with messy hair, decided he wanted to have some fun. He reached out and grabbed Clara's arm, trying to pull her forward. "Come on, lady," he said, chuckling. "Let's see if you can keep up." But Rick made a big mistake. The moment he touched Clara, she reacted instantly. Using his own momentum against him, she twisted her body and shoved him hard. Rick stumbled backward, tripping over his own feet. He landed flat on his back with a loud thud. The other bikers froze, shocked. They weren't expecting this. In their minds, Clara was supposed to be helpless. But instead, she had just thrown one of them to the ground without breaking a sweat. Jake frowned, his confidence wavering. "What the?" he muttered, staring at Clara. "Who is this woman?" Clara didn't answer. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, listening carefully. She could hear Tony moving behind her, trying to sneak up quietly. But nothing escaped Clara's ears. She spun around quickly, swinging her cane like a weapon. The end of the cane smacked Tony right in the stomach, knocking the wind out of him. He doubled over, gasping for air. By now, the bikers were starting to panic. Their plan to scare Clara had completely backfired. Instead of feeling powerful, they felt confused and scared. In stories like this, small actions often lead to big changes. When Clara pushed Rick and swung her cane at Tony, those moments might seem minor. But they were actually huge turning points. Each action showed the bikers that Clara wasn't afraid of them. Each move proved that she was stronger than they thought. Think about it, if Clara had stayed quiet and let the bikers bully her, the story would be very different. But because she fought back even in small ways, she changed the entire situation. She took control, showing the bikers that they couldn't walk all over her. This is an important lesson for everyone. Sometimes, standing up for yourself doesn't mean making a grand speech or fighting a giant battle. It can start with something as simple as saying no or taking one brave step. Those small actions add up, leading to bigger victories down the road. As the confrontation continued, Clara's inner strength shone brighter than ever. She wasn't just relying on physical skills, she was using her mind, too. Every time the bikers moved, she listened closely, analyzing their sounds and movements. She used her surroundings to her advantage, staying calm and focused. For example, when Tony tried to grab her cane again, Clara sidestepped smoothly, avoiding his reach. Then, she tapped her cane against a nearby trash can, creating a loud noise that startled him. While Tony hesitated, unsure of where she was, Clara struck again, hitting him lightly on the shin. It wasn't enough to hurt him badly, but it was enough to make him back off. Meanwhile, Jake watched everything unfold, growing angrier by the second. He couldn't believe this blind woman was holding her own against his crew. "Enough of this," he shouted, stepping forward. "You're gonna regret messing with us." But Clara didn't flinch. She smiled faintly, almost as if she was enjoying herself. "Go ahead," she said calmly. "Show me what you've got." One thing that makes Clara so impressive is her confidence. Even though she's outnumbered, she doesn't act scared or desperate. She stays cool, treating the bikers like they're nothing special. And that confidence throws them off balance. Have you ever noticed how people react differently when someone acts confident? For example, if a teacher walks into a classroom looking nervous, the students might take advantage of that. But if the teacher walks in confidently, the students are more likely to listen and behave. The same thing happens here. The bikers expected Clara to beg for mercy or run away crying. But instead, she faced them head-on, refusing to back down. That threw them off guard, making them question whether they'd picked the wrong person to mess with. As the fight continued, Clara dropped subtle hints that she wasn't just an ordinary woman. For instance, when Jake lunged toward her, she dodged effortlessly, spinning around like a dancer. Her movements were smooth and precise, almost like she'd practiced them 1,000 times before. "Where'd you learn to move like that?" Jake asked, panting heavily. He was sweating now, clearly struggling to keep up. Clara didn't answer directly. Instead, she said, "Let's just say I've been preparing for moments like this." Her words left the bikers wondering. What did she mean by moments like this? Had she dealt with bullies before? Was she hiding some kind of secret? These questions create suspense, keeping the audience hooked. We know Clara has hidden powers, but the bikers don't. And that gap between what we know and what they know makes the story exciting. Tension is what keeps readers and viewers engaged. It's the feeling of anticipation. You want to know what happens next, but you're not sure yet. In this part of the story, tension builds as Clara slowly reveals her abilities. For example, after dodging Jake's attack, Clara grabbed a loose chain from a nearby fence. She swung it expertly, using it like a whip. The metal links clanged loudly as they hit the ground near Jake's feet. He jumped back, startled. "You're full of surprises, aren't you?" Jake growled, narrowing his eyes. Clara shrugged. "You haven't seen anything yet." Moments like these keep the audience guessing. Will Clara use the chain to hit Jake? Or will she come up with another trick? These unanswered questions pull us deeper into the story, eager to find out what happens next. As Clara continued to hold her own, the bikers began to lose their confidence. Rick was still lying on the ground, groaning in pain. Tony was limping, clutching his stomach. And Jake, the leader, looked more frustrated than ever. "We need to finish this," Jake muttered to his friends. "Now." But finishing the fight wasn't going to be easy. Clara was faster, smarter, and more skilled than they'd anticipated. Every time they attacked, she countered perfectly. It was like she could predict their moves before they even made them. Finally, Jake decided to take matters into his own hands. He charged at Clara, hoping to overpower her with sheer force. But Clara was ready. She waited until the last second, then ducked low, avoiding his punch. As Jake stumbled past her, she swept her leg under his feet, sending him crashing to the ground. The impact knocked the wind out of Jake. He lay there, stunned, staring up at Clara. For the first time, he realized he'd made a terrible mistake. This woman wasn't weak or helpless. She was a fighter, a true survivor. By now, it's clear that Clara isn't just defending herself. She's teaching the bikers a lesson about respect. They judged her based on her blindness, assuming she was an easy target. But through her actions, Clara is proving that everyone deserves to be treated fairly, no matter how they look or what challenges they face. This is a powerful message for all of us. Too often, people judge others without knowing their full story. They assume someone is weak because they're quiet, or incapable because they're different. But as Clara shows, appearances can be deceiving. True strength comes from within, and it often shows up in unexpected ways. So far, Clara has taken down 2 of the bikers and left the third one lying on the ground. But the story isn't over yet. There's still more to come, including a shocking revelation that will change everything. Are you excited to see what happens next? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll share the next part of the story soon. Until then, remember this: sometimes, the quietest person in the room holds the most power. And those who judge by appearances, they're the ones who never see it coming. Now we've reached the most exciting part of the story, the climax. This is where everything comes together, and secrets are revealed. Clara has already shown the bikers that she's not someone to mess with. But now, she's about to drop a bombshell that will leave them speechless. Jake, the leader of the bikers, was still lying on the ground after Clara tripped him. He stared up at her, his face red with anger and embarrassment. His friends, Rick and Tony, were groaning in pain nearby. None of them could believe what had just happened. They thought they were tough guys who could scare anyone. Instead, they'd been outsmarted and beaten by a blind woman. Clara stood tall, her cane in one hand and the chain from the fence in the other. She looked calm, almost relaxed, as if she'd done this kind of thing 100 times before. And in a way, she had. But here's the thing, Clara wasn't finished yet. She wanted to make sure these bullies understood exactly who they were dealing with. So, she decided it was time for the big reveal. "Do you know why I'm so good at defending myself?" Clara asked, her voice steady and clear. The bikers didn't answer, they were too busy trying to catch their breath. But Clara didn't wait for a response. She continued speaking, her words cutting through the tension like a knife. "I've spent years training for moments like this," she said. "After I lost my sight, I made a promise to myself. I promised I wouldn't let anyone take advantage of me. I learned self-defense techniques designed for people with disabilities. I practiced martial arts that rely on hearing, touch, and spatial awareness instead of sight. I became stronger than I ever was before." The bikers listened silently, their mouths hanging open. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. This wasn't just some random blind woman, they were facing a highly skilled fighter. "But that's not all," Clara added, her tone growing colder. "I'm also a licensed private investigator. That means I know how to gather evidence, track down criminals, and bring them to justice. So, when you picked on me today, you didn't just mess with an ordinary person. You messed with someone who knows how to handle troublemakers like you." At first, the bikers didn't understand what Clara meant. What did being a private investigator have to do with anything? Then, Clara pulled out her phone and dialed a number. She put it on speaker so everyone could hear. "Hello, 911? I need to report an incident," Clara said calmly. "3 men harassed me near Main Street. They tried to intimidate me and steal my belongings. Fortunately, I managed to defend myself, but I believe they're involved in other illegal activities. Yes, I can provide details." As Clara spoke, the bikers' eyes widened in horror. They realized she wasn't just calling the police to report what had happened that day. She was using her skills as a private investigator to dig deeper into their pasts. Whatever secrets they'd been hiding, illegal deals, stolen goods, or worse, Clara was about to expose them. You can't do this," Jake stammered, struggling to stand up. "We didn't mean any harm." Clara raised an eyebrow. "Didn't mean any harm? You attacked me because I'm blind. You thought I was weak. Well, guess what? Your arrogance just led you straight into trouble." This moment, the big reveal, is crucial to the story. It's where Clara shows her true identity and flips the script completely. Up until now, the bikers thought they were in charge. They thought they could bully her without consequences. But now, they realize they've underestimated her in every possible way. For the audience, this revelation is satisfying because it answers questions we've been wondering about since the beginning. Who is Clara really? How did she learn to fight so well? Why does she seem so confident? Now we know, she's not just a survivor, she's a warrior. She's not just a victim of bullying, she's a hero who fights back. This is also a turning point for the bikers. Until now, they've seen themselves as untouchable. They've broken rules, hurt people, and gotten away with it. But Clara's actions prove that no one is above the law. No matter how strong or scary someone seems, there's always a way to hold them accountable. One of the reasons this story resonates with people is because it's about justice. Justice means fairness. It's when people get what they deserve based on their actions. In this case, the bikers deserve to face consequences for their behavior. They picked on someone weaker, or so they thought, and ended up learning a valuable lesson. Clara represents justice in action. She doesn't seek revenge or try to hurt the bikers unnecessarily. Instead, she uses her skills and knowledge to protect herself and others. By calling the police, she ensures that the bikers won't be able to harm anyone else anytime soon. This idea of justice is important for everyone to understand. Life isn't always fair, and sometimes bad things happen to good people. But stories like this remind us that standing up for yourself and others can lead to positive change. Even if it takes time, even if it's hard, doing the right thing matters. As Clara wrapped up her call with 911, the bikers started panicking. Jake frantically tried to explain himself, but his words came out jumbled and desperate. "Look, lady, we didn't know you were, special, okay? We'll leave you alone. Just don't call the cops." Rick and Tony nodded furiously, agreeing with whatever Jake said. They looked like scared children, not the tough guys they'd pretended to be earlier. For the first time, they realized they weren't untouchable. Their actions had real consequences, and they were about to pay the price. Clara shook her head. "It's too late for apologies," she said firmly. "You had your chance to treat me with respect. Instead, you chose to mock me and attack me. Now, you'll face the consequences of your choices." Her words hit the bikers like a punch to the gut. They sank to the ground, defeated. There was nothing left for them to do but wait for the police to arrive. While the bikers sat there, humiliated and afraid, Clara took a deep breath. She felt a mix of emotions: relief, pride, and maybe even a little sadness. She hadn't wanted to fight them. She hadn't wanted to call the police. All she'd wanted was to walk home safely after buying groceries. But life doesn't always give us what we want. Sometimes, we have to stand up for ourselves even if it's uncomfortable or scary. And sometimes, standing up for ourselves means teaching others a lesson they won't forget. Clara knew she'd done the right thing. She hadn't sought revenge or tried to hurt the bikers unnecessarily. She'd simply defended herself and held them accountable for their actions. That's what justice looks like: not punishment for its own sake, but fairness and protection for everyone involved. Even though the climax is the most intense part of the story, it's not the end. After the big reveal, we need to see how everything wraps up. What happens when the police arrive? How do the bikers react? And what about Clara? How does she move forward after such a dramatic encounter? These questions set the stage for the resolution. The climax gives us the emotional payoff we've been waiting for, but the resolution provides closure. It ties up loose ends and leaves the audience feeling satisfied. So, let's keep going. The police sirens are getting louder, and the bikers are sweating bullets. Clara stands tall, ready to face whatever comes next. Are you excited to see how the story concludes? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll share the final part soon. Until then, remember this: true strength isn't about muscles or weapons, it's about courage, resilience, and doing the right thing, even when it's hard. As the sound of police sirens grew louder, Clara stood calmly on the sidewalk, her cane in one hand and her phone in the other. She had already done everything she could to protect herself and hold the bikers accountable. Now, it was time for the authorities to take over. The red and blue lights flashed brightly as two police cars screeched to a halt near the scene. Officers stepped out quickly, their faces serious and focused. They approached Clara first, asking if she was okay. "Yes, I'm fine," Clara said, her voice steady and clear. "But these men harassed me and tried to steal my belongings. I defended myself, and then I called you." One of the officers nodded, jotting down notes on a small pad. "Thank you for staying calm and reporting this," he said. "We'll handle it from here." Meanwhile, the bikers Jake, Rick, and Tony looked terrified. They scrambled to their feet, trying to explain themselves. "Officer, it was just a joke," Jake blurted out. "We didn't mean any harm." The officers exchanged skeptical glances. They'd heard similar excuses before, and they weren't buying it. Instead, they began questioning each biker individually, gathering information about what had happened. While the officers worked, Clara stayed nearby, ready to answer any questions. She explained how the bikers had surrounded her, mocked her blindness, and tried to intimidate her. She described their actions step by step, using details that only someone with sharp senses could notice. For example, she told the officers exactly where each biker had been standing during the confrontation. She even remembered specific things they'd said, like Jake's sarcastic comment about her being a lost little lamb. These details helped paint a clear picture of what had happened. But Clara didn't stop there. As a private investigator, she knew how to dig deeper. She mentioned that she suspected the bikers might be involved in other illegal activities. "They're not just bullies," she said. "I think they've been causing trouble in town for a long time." The officers listened carefully, nodding as they wrote down her observations. They promised to look into her claims and investigate further. As the investigation unfolded, the officers discovered that Clara's suspicions were correct. The bikers weren't just ordinary troublemakers, they were part of a larger group involved in illegal activities. Over the years, they had been linked to thefts, vandalism, and even drug trafficking in the area. When the police searched the bikers' motorcycles and jackets, they found evidence that confirmed Clara's hunch. There were stolen items hidden in their bags, along with tools used for breaking into homes and businesses. It was clear that Jake, Rick, and Tony weren't just bullies, they were criminals. The officers handcuffed the bikers and placed them in the back of the police cars. As they drove away, Jake shouted angrily, "This isn't over. You'll regret this, lady." Clara didn't respond. She simply stood there, her expression calm and resolute. She knew better than to engage with threats or empty words. The law was on her side now, and justice would take its course. News of what happened spread quickly through the town. People who had witnessed the confrontation or heard about it from others were amazed by Clara's bravery. At first, many residents had underestimated her, assuming she needed help because of her blindness. Now, they realized how wrong they'd been. Some neighbors came to Clara's apartment to thank her personally. "You showed those bullies who's boss," one woman said, smiling warmly. "We've all been afraid of them for years, but you stood up to them like no one else dared to." Others praised her skills and determination. "I had no idea you were such a fighter," a man told her. "You're an inspiration to all of us." Clara appreciated the kind words, but she didn't let the attention go to her head. She reminded everyone that standing up for yourself and others is something anyone can do. "It's not about being strong or fearless," she said. "It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard." The incident changed how people saw Clara and themselves. Before, many residents had avoided the bikers, thinking there was nothing they could do to stop them. But Clara's actions proved that one person really can make a difference. For example, a local shop owner named Mr. Patel decided to install security cameras outside his store after hearing about Clara's story. "If she can stand up to those guys, so can I," he said. "I'm not going to let them scare me anymore." Even kids in the neighborhood started speaking up when they saw bullying at school. One boy told his teacher, "Clara taught us that we don't have to stay quiet if someone is mean to us. We can tell an adult or find a way to stop it." In a small but meaningful way, Clara's courage inspired the entire town to be braver and kinder. People began looking out for each other more, creating a stronger sense of community. As the days passed, life in the town slowly returned to normal, or at least, a new kind of normal. The bikers were gone, arrested, and facing charges for their crimes. People felt safer walking the streets, knowing that justice had been served. But for Clara, things hadn't changed much. She still woke up early, went about her daily routine, and spent time helping others whenever she could. What had changed was how people saw her. Before the incident, many thought of Clara as quiet, unassuming, and maybe even fragile because of her blindness. Now, they realized she was anything but weak. She was strong, smart, and brave, a true hero who refused to let anyone push her around. But here's the thing, Clara didn't seek attention or praise. She wasn't interested in being called a hero. For her, standing up to the bikers wasn't about proving a point or showing off her skills. It was about doing what was right, protecting herself and making sure no one else had to suffer because of those bullies. Her quiet strength reminded everyone that true courage doesn't always look loud or flashy. Sometimes, it's calm and steady, like a river flowing through a valley. And sometimes, it comes from the most unexpected places. This story isn't just about Clara, it's about all of us. It teaches important lessons that we can carry with us throughout our lives. Let's take a moment to reflect on some of these lessons. The bikers made a big mistake when they assumed Clara was helpless because she was blind. They judged her based on appearances instead of taking the time to understand who she really was. This is something we all do sometimes. We make quick decisions about people without knowing their full story. But as Clara showed us, appearances can be deceiving. True strength often hides beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to shine. When the bikers tried to bully Clara, she didn't back down. She stood tall and defended herself, even though she was outnumbered. Her actions remind us that standing up for ourselves is important, not just for our own safety but also for setting boundaries. If someone treats you unfairly, it's okay to say no and fight back, whether that means using your words, your actions, or asking for help. And standing up for yourself doesn't stop there. It also means standing up for others. Imagine if someone had stepped in to help Clara before things escalated. Maybe the bikers wouldn't have gotten so bold. We all have the power to make a difference by supporting those who need it. Clara didn't call the police out of revenge or anger. She did it because she believed in fairness and accountability. She wanted to make sure the bikers couldn't hurt anyone else. This shows us that justice isn't about punishing people for fun, it's about protecting everyone and making the world a better place. Sometimes, fighting for justice feels hard or scary. You might worry about getting in trouble or making enemies. But remember this, doing the right thing almost always pays off in the end. Even if it takes time, even if it's difficult, standing up for fairness matters. Losing her sight could have broken Clara. Instead, she chose to grow stronger. She learned new skills, adapted to her challenges, and built a life filled with purpose. Her resilience reminds us that setbacks don't define us, it's how we respond to them that counts. No matter what happens in life, we all face obstacles. Some are small, like failing a test or losing a game. Others are bigger, like moving to a new school or dealing with loss. Whatever the challenge, we can choose to keep going, learn from it, and come out stronger on the other side. After the incident with the bikers, Clara became a role model for many people in the town. Kids looked up to her, adults admired her, and everyone wanted to hear more about her journey. So, Clara decided to share her story in a way that would inspire others. She started teaching self-defense classes for people with disabilities. Every Saturday morning, she met with a group of students eager to learn how to protect themselves. Some were blind like her, others used wheelchairs or had other challenges. Together, they practiced techniques designed to build confidence and strength. Clara also gave talks at schools and community centers. She spoke about overcoming adversity, standing up to bullies, and finding hidden strengths within ourselves. Her speeches were simple but powerful, filled with stories and advice that anyone could understand. One day, during a talk at the local library, a young girl raised her hand and asked, "Clara, how did you stay so brave when the bikers attacked you?" Clara smiled warmly. "I wasn't always brave," she admitted. "At first, I felt scared too. But then I remembered something important: fear doesn't go away unless you face it. The more I practiced my skills and trusted myself, the less afraid I became." Her answer stayed with the girl and with everyone else in the room. It reminded them that bravery isn't about never feeling afraid. It's about pushing through fear and doing what needs to be done. Clara's influence spread far beyond the town. News of her bravery reached nearby cities, inspiring people everywhere to stand up against bullying and injustice. Local newspapers wrote articles about her, calling her the unseen warrior. A radio station invited her for an interview, where she shared tips on staying safe and confident. Even online, Clara's story gained attention. Videos of her teaching self-defense went viral, racking up thousands of views. People left comments praising her courage and thanking her for showing them that disability doesn't mean weakness. But perhaps the most touching part of all was the messages Clara received from strangers. One woman wrote, "Your story gave me hope. I've been bullied my whole life, but now I know I can fight back." Another man said, "You inspired me to enroll in a martial arts class. Thank you for reminding me that I'm stronger than I think." These responses touched Clara deeply. She hadn't set out to become famous or change the world. All she'd wanted was to live her life with dignity and respect. But seeing how her actions had helped others gave her a sense of purpose she'd never expected. Despite all the attention, Clara remained humble. She continued living her quiet life, focusing on what mattered most to her, helping others and staying true to herself. She knew that fame was fleeting, but kindness and courage lasted forever. Still, she couldn't help but feel hopeful about the future. The town was safer now, thanks to her efforts. People were kinder to each other, more willing to stand up against wrongdoing. And kids were learning valuable lessons about bravery, fairness, and resilience. Clara dreamed of expanding her self-defense program to reach even more people. She hoped to partner with schools, nonprofits, and government organizations to teach survival skills to anyone who needed them. Her ultimate goal was simple: to create a world where everyone felt empowered to protect themselves and others. So, what can we take away from Clara's story? Here are a few key points to remember. True strength comes from within. It doesn't matter what you look like or what challenges you face. What matters is how you handle those challenges and treat others. Never judge a book by its cover. Just because someone seems different or weaker doesn't mean they are. Everyone has hidden talents and strengths waiting to be discovered. Standing up for yourself is powerful. Whether it's defending your rights, speaking your mind, or protecting someone else, standing up for what's right makes a difference. Justice is worth fighting for. When we hold people accountable for their actions, we create a fairer, safer world for everyone. Clara's story proves that one person really can change the world, even if it starts with something as simple as saying no to a bully. Her courage, resilience, and determination remind us that we're all capable of greatness, no matter who we are or where we come from. And that brings us to the end of Clara's incredible journey. I hope you enjoyed reading her story as much as I enjoyed writing it. If this tale inspired you, please share it with your friends and family. Let's spread the message that true strength lies within us all, and that those who judge by appearances are the ones who never see it coming. Before you go, leave a comment below and tell me what you thought of the story. Did Clara inspire you? What lesson will you carry with you? Your thoughts mean the world to me. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, you never know who's watching and waiting to surprise you.